So, how would you answer this question? Would you trade forehands with the number 50 WTA player? So, professional women's tennis player, number 50 in the world, would you trade forehands with that person? I ran this survey on our YouTube channel just yesterday, and after over 1,000 votes, almost 30% of people have said no. And if you're curious why people have said no, then keep watching this video. I think the perspective and the understanding linked to this question is super, super critical. So if you're curious why people are saying no and what that kind of means for you and your game and your development, then stick around. This is a super interesting one. So this all kicked off for me yesterday as I was going through YouTube comments, responding to a bunch of them. By the way, I read all the comments on the Essential Tennis YouTube channel. And I saw this one: women are beautiful creatures, but their forehands are so ugly it hurts. Subjective, statement. If you don't like that style, I can understand that. But I said, so you wouldn't trade forehands with a top 10 WTA player? And then this person said, I actually would, because I wouldn't mind having an ugly game. So this person's saying that they would take the additional skill or the additional talent, the additional quality of shot at the sacrifice of whether or not, it's a pretty game or an ugly game. Which I'd be curious to know if NN has actually ever seen their own forehand or not, to know whether or not their current forehand is pretty or ugly. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. We actually kind of might come back around to that topic. So anyway, after this conversation, I was like, I wonder how many people actually would say yes versus would say no in our YouTube audience, which is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So I posted that survey, I posted that poll, and the answers kind of fell into 5 different categories. The most common was people saying, I would trade with the number 50 WTA player. So a couple examples of that. Yeah, of course, who doesn't want a pro stroke? Yes, because any pro player in either the men's or the women's tour is going to be better than I could ever dream to be. Any professional who dedicates their entire life to tennis is going to be better than me. So yeah, easy choice. Yes, because I wouldn't trade. Yes, because I would trade forehands with anybody above a 3-5 level. Super, I think self-aware there to be able to say, yeah, okay, I'm a 3-5 player. I would trade forehands with anybody who's above 3-5. Like that would give me a boost in my game. It's a top 50 women's player in the world. Why wouldn't you say yes? Jackson says. So here's the most common reasons why people said no. It fell into 4 different categories, and a couple of them surprised me quite a bit. This one I honestly didn't see coming. It's kind of fun, just kind of a funny thing that I didn't even think about ahead of time. I'd feel bad because she'd instantly lose her job with a forehand like mine. And reading the actual question, the words of the question, I said, would you trade forehands? So that would mean this professional athlete would have to take my forehand. And a lot of people were like, no, that would be me. Like, why would I do that to a professional athlete, to make them play with my forehand? Like, they would instantly, tank. So that's funny. Like, I get why people would say no for that reason. Another reason why people said no, I don't want my backswing to go past the imaginary line. If you're not familiar with like WTA versus ATP forehand, at Essential Tennis here, we've done several videos on that topic. Women's forehand is different, so no. So a lot of people said that they just didn't appreciate the aesthetic or the style of the forehand that tends to be used the most on the WTA tour. And if that's you, then I think that's totally fine. Like if you have a certain opinion about like which style technique is the better style, and you get most of your enjoyment in the game of tennis by trying to copy a certain kind of aesthetic, and that's where you kind of get your fulfillment, then by all means, go ahead and go down that path. Go ahead and try to master the ATP forehand and try to master keeping the racket on edge on the way up. Try to master extending your arm, at contact, or whatever other kind of visual aesthetic things you think are cool and looks nice. Like if that's what you want to get out of the game of tennis, then by all means, go ahead and do that. Like more power to you. So that was a second reason why people said no. The third reason was obviously her forehand is going to be way better, but my forehand is mine, and I find it fun to keep working on and improving something not so great. So no, I saw several people answer like this, which honestly kind of blew me away. I thought this was pretty amazing. So this person's saying that I know my forehand is worse, but I enjoy the process of working on my forehand. I like trying to improve my skills, and I wouldn't want to like skip that process. I thought that was really, really cool. And I saw several people say something kind of, to this effect, like, well, that would take away my project that I have with my forehand currently, and I get a lot of satisfaction, I get a lot of fulfillment from working on my forehand. So no, I wouldn't trade. Like I wouldn't shortcut and just kind of automatically get a better forehand. So I thought that was really cool. So those are 3 different answers. Here's the 4th way that people answered. And I'm gonna kind of protect the. I'm not here to like call anybody out. I'm not here to embarrass anybody or shame anybody or anything like that. So, but this is the other kind of response, and this is, to be totally honest, this is kind of more in line with what I kind of expected to see. So I've blacked out these people's emojis, not emojis, their avatars and their screen names. So here's some other people that said no, they wouldn't trade with number 50 WTA player. No, that would be totally demasculating. Not interested in that huge backswing. So a little bit of the kind of subjectivity or the style, like preference. I'm happy with my powerful and consistent forehand. I'd be the loser if a trade were to happen. So this person's saying that they would win less matches if they traded forehands with the number 50 WTA player in the world. I'm just going to leave that there for a second. And hit like a girl, no thanks. Kind of more, some of these, to be totally honest, I don't know how much of this is kind of like trolling and just trying to, just kind of trying to be a dick on the internet, but if this is all serious, like these are like serious problems here in terms of perspective, in terms of understanding the realities of different levels of the game. This is not a small deal. Like if you're serious about statements like this, then you're holding yourself back because you have no idea where you fit in the grand scheme of things in terms of like bottom to top skill levels of tennis. If you believe things like this, then you're way out of touch. Like you're just not even, you don't understand what you're watching or what you're seeing when you watch professional, women's tennis or professional men's tennis for that matter. All I need is their perfect form. I'll add my own power onto it. So this person thinking that they're hitting forehands harder than the WTA 50 player. Hell no. Have confidence in your strokes. I can kind of get on board with that. But the rest of it, plus my forehand is harder than hers. So these are all kind of statements coming from the general direction that my forehand is better, I would lose more matches, it would be a downgrade, it would be demasculating, etc., etc., etc. So I have another question for anybody who kind of falls into this category. I actually have another question for you, and you probably don't see this coming. I guarantee it. Would you trade forehands with this player, with Mark Sandset? Would you trade your current forehand for the forehand of Mark Sandset? Do me a favor and tell me in the comments down below, or if you're watching in the chat right now. Yes or no? Would you trade forehands with Mark? I'm recording this live, so I'm just kind of taking a glimpse. Yeah, just lots of yeses, some was, lots of yeses. just all yeses going by in the chat. Okay, so I almost put up another poll and said, would you trade forehands with Mark Sandset? He's a local player here in Milwaukee. Maybe you've seen him play on this channel. Strong 4-5 player. You could make a case for him maybe being a 5-0 player, but at the very least, like kind of top here in this local area, top of the food chain for 4-5 players. Better forehand than probably 90% of all tennis players, right? Including anybody who watches this. small percentage of people are going to have a downgrade if they were just to swap with Mark and take his forehand instead. Well, Mark actually has some head-to-head experience with somebody who's currently ranked in the WTA. And I don't think he's really talked about this or told this story. And a big shout out to Mark. I asked his permission this morning to use this story. I've been texting with a current WTA player who hopefully soon is going to be playing a match here on the Essential Tennis Court. And the reason why her coach and then she started communicating with me is because they were friends with Mark. Mark has trained with her several times. And she has played matches against Mark twice. And she's currently 16 years old and currently ranked somewhere in the range of 1100 WTA, 1,100, somewhere in that range. I didn't check, before I started recording this, but she's beyond the top 1,000 WTA. She's 16 years old. Mark has played her twice and hasn't beaten her yet. So, those of you who are saying, no way, I would never trade with the number 50 WTA player, you need to understand that if you're a dude and you're a 4-5 player or a 5-0 player, anywhere in that vicinity, and there's some wiggle room there, obviously. Let's just say 4-5. If you're a 4-5 player and you're a guy and you're looking down your nose at the number 50 WTA player, you don't even know what you're watching on TV or on YouTube or wherever you've watched WTA tennis. You have no clue what the perspective is and what the level difference is between you and high-level female players. And therefore, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to the reality of the level of male players. And I don't even want to get into that whole thing. I'd be happy to cover that at some point in the future. I have lots of personal experiences and anecdotes. There's a difference, right, between men's tennis and women's tennis. I'll just it's not the same thing. I'll just leave it at that, for now. But this is a fantastic kind of case study in Mark having played this 1100 WTA player multiple times, hasn't beaten her yet. He very badly wants to. There's a small chance he might play her on this court, and that's the 1100 player. So I just wanted to kind of respond a little bit to some of the comments that came in related to this. I think it's super important to have in mind or have a good clean perspective or a good basis, ground in reality about what it is that we watch. There's a huge disconnect between what tennis looks like on a screen. I was talking in the chat before this broadcast started. There's such a huge disconnect between what we see on our phones or what we see on a computer screen or what we see on TV and what it really is in real life. And there's a whole lot of people on the internet watching videos on their display, watching videos on their screen, and they think that what they see on the screen is the same thing as when they walk on the court. And it's not even close. Watching on TV takes away speed. It takes away power. It takes away quickness. It takes away spin. When you watch on a screen, it flattens everything, and you don't see the true effect of what it really is in person. And a whole lot of people just don't understand that and don't know that. So I want to say thank you to Mark for allowing me to use that example. And I think most of the people that said no would have said yes to trading forehands with Mark. But I think it's really fascinating that they said no to trading with somebody who's much, much better than Mark, way more talented than Mark, has accomplished much, much more in the game of tennis, technically more refined, has more skill, more talent, so on and so forth. 30% of people said no to that person, but most of those people would say yes if I asked them if they wanted to trade forehands with Mark. So let me know what you think about that down below. What's your reaction to this? What are your thoughts? And where do you fall in here? Are you like an easy yes, or are you a no for one of the 5 reasons, or was it 4 reasons? 5 reasons why people said no. Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor, click the like button. Always helps these videos, helps more tennis players see them, which helps the game of tennis, or at least I like to think so. So thank you for helping support Essential Tennis. I really appreciate it a lot. All right, I'll hang around. I'll do a little bit of Q&A here, see what people are. The chat's been moving really fast. I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to scroll. Yeah, 29% no are all men. Yeah, Sophia. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. You know, my audience here on YouTube is 86% male. So that definitely plays into this for sure. And by the way, that's up. When I first started uploading to YouTube, my audience was like 92, 93% male. We just don't have much of a female audience. I don't really have like a firm reason why that is. But for whatever reason, there's not a whole lot of female tennis players watching YouTube videos, or at least not my YouTube videos. And it didn't change, by the way. I've had multiple female coaches here on the channel. Kirby came on, I don't know, 5 years ago, and she was here for 3 years. Megan came on like 3 years ago, and she was here for 2 years. It didn't change the ratio. So there's I don't know, there's something about men and women and watching tennis videos on YouTube. I don't know what it is, but those are the numbers. My audience is predominantly male, and it always has been. Yeah, I totally agree. Dead Carp, 1000 WTA would beat any 4-5 player. Yes, like the answer to that is yes. And I tell you what, just browsing around through the internet, like there's so much misinformation. There's so many people are totally disconnected with the reality of this and are just completely guessing. They have no direct comparison or no direct really like information about it. But I agree with that statement 100%. Do you think you could 1v1 the worst WNBA player? Like me personally, no. Like I'm not much of I'm an okay athlete, but I'm not a basketball player. So no, there's no chance I would win that. I'm a woman and he is my favorite YouTube channel. Yeah, Stacy. Yeah, I've got another female in the chat. All right. Yeah, totally. Justin's saying in person versus camera is 100% different. It really is. It feels like somebody asked me on YouTube not too long ago to try to quantify like what's the percentage difference. Is Mark Saria? I saw you in there. Scott Browdy, Mark Sanset, you three. Do me a favor, answer right now. What percentage difference? What percentage slower do you think it looks on YouTube versus what it feels like on the courts? Can you do me a favor and answer? Saria, Scott, Mark, like you all have a lot of experience seeing yourselves on video. What percentage slower do you think your videos look like compared to what it feels like on the court? Mark says 69% slower. I'm not sure I don't think that's a serious answer. Dill Pickle says 30%, 50% slower. Saria is saying 50% slower. Somebody asked me that recently on YouTube, and my answer was about 30% slower or so, like 30, 35%. It looks that much slower to me, like my own experience when I watch myself on video, which I do every single day. I would say about 30, 35% slower than what what my experience is on the court. It feels to me 30%. It's 30% slower on video than what it feels to me on the court. Scott Browdy says 40, 50% slower. Jose, high frames per second. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about slow motion, yeah, like the more the video slows down, the more the effect happens in my experience. Like a forehand that feels big and like powerful, when you watch yourself do it in slow motion, it's like it looks like it's the slowest thing ever. So no, it doesn't make any difference. Or do you mean 60 frames per second that makes it feel a little faster when you play full speed at 60 frames per second. There's more information there for your eyes to take in, so it looks and feels a little bit faster. Oh, let me tell you guys this. I haven't shared this publicly, and I'm not going to call anybody out. But the other day, I randomly tapped on. I'm trying to think of how I can protect these people. I randomly tapped on a tennis match play video on YouTube, and I'm not going to say anything, not the level or anything. And I was watching these two people play, and something didn't quite look right to me. And I was eating lunch, and I was watching point play on YouTube, and I was watching, and I was like, this just isn't quite right. I've been doing tennis videos for 15, 20 years. And I was like, and I brought it up on my computer, and I realized that they had sped up the video by a tiny percentage in an effort to try to make themselves look faster and try to make their shots look more powerful. This person who uploaded this video had actually, in an editing program, had actually sped up the footage. And there's no way this was like a mistake, like accident. Like you can't like accidentally increase your playback speed by 5%. It was probably like a 5% bump. But if you know, if you've watched a lot of tennis on, if you've done a lot of tennis videos, then you can just kind of tell, like the ball just didn't quite act the way that it should. And they had sped up the video. And, I kind of, I get it. Like when you watch yourself back, it's like, oh, really? Like, is that, you have this certain picture in your head of like what you think it's going to look like. And when you watch the video back, there's this, at first, there's this disappointment. There's this like sinking feeling of like, is that all? Like, is that this shot that I remembered being like this huge, powerful winner? Like, it looks really slow. And I'm not giving any more information about like who this was, but they had sped up the footage to make it look faster. And I mean, you shouldn't do that. I'm not condoning it, but I understand like where they're coming from and wanting to feel like they're a little faster. No, it wasn't Saria. It's not anybody who's in this chat right now. It's probably not somebody you follow. I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's see, any questions? How would you help a high school in a poor area get in the game? Man, that's a really big question, Oscar. Look for local organizations or maybe charities. Here in Milwaukee, we have the Milwaukee Tennis Education Foundation, and they're like a grassroots inner city organization that specifically tries to enable like lower income, like in need kids through tennis, which is amazing. It's an incredible foundation. I've been trying to think of a way that I can help support them through our content. But that's like one example, and I think they may have other like chapters in other cities. But look, whatever city you live in, like whatever, Detroit, like tennis education foundation, or tennis, grassroots, or something like that, and see if there's somebody already locally who might be doing work like that you can partner with, that already has connections, already has relationships, so on and so forth. Ian, can you speak about what it takes to actually go pro? Yeah, so Dead Carp, I did a video a while back with a good friend of mine who, I can never remember the title of this video. A good friend of mine is the head coach at University of Arizona, and several of his players have ATP points. And so he has a lot of experience with like players who are kind of like 1 foot in like either camp. And so I interviewed him on my channel years ago. Let me see if I can find it for you really quick. Because I get that question so much in my comments from people saying, how do I go pro? Like, is it too late for me to go pro, et cetera, et cetera. So I brought him on specifically to ask him those questions. Let's see, Essential Tennis. Let me just try to find this video for you really quickly. Yeah, here we go. How to become a tennis pro, ATP Tour Training Insights. So this is the video. Ivan Lendl and Andy Murray in the thumbnail. So I did a search for Essential Tennis Matt, that's his name, M-A-T-T, Go Pro. So that was an interview with it. Watch that video. It's like it's a 40-minute interview, and we just talked about like what it takes to actually make it as a professional player. It's 100 times harder than anybody realizes unless they've tried it or they know somebody who's tried it. It's unbelievably difficult to make it as a professional tennis player. I have beaten somebody with a frying pan. That's why I have the pan. We did a video not too long, I guess a couple years ago, about playing with frying pan. I once challenged a personal trainer I was working out with for a while. We were trying to figure out how to handicap a tennis match between the two of us, and I challenged him to a match with a frying pan for $20, and I beat him. So we just played a set. I beat him 6-4. It was probably one of my better wins. Castle, I don't know my UTR. Mark, what are you, a 9? I don't know. I think I'd probably be like an 8-ish. What do you think, Mark? Like somewhere around an 8, possibly. I need to get back into playing tournaments again. I don't have a UTR right now, but hopefully about a year from now, hopefully I'll actually have one as I get back into playing tournaments and real matches again. Let's see here. I'll just answer a couple more questions here before I sign off. Really appreciate all of you hanging out today. How much matches should one player have in 2 weeks? Yeah, it depends on what your goals are. It depends on your age, how fast you're trying to improve. We talk a little bit about that in this interview. Matt and I balancing out like training time on the court versus like competitive, match play. But yeah, that's kind of a really big question. I need to know more specifics, but you should be on a court hitting balls 4 or 5 times a week if you're trying to become like the best player you can possibly be. And how you split that between matches and like training sessions, I think depends on what you have coming up in terms of like when's your next tournament, when's your next, serious, competitive thing. If it's not for quite a while, then I would maybe play 1 match a week, and the rest of it spend your time doing training sessions. If you are like 2 or 3 weeks out from playing like a big tournament, then you should be spending more of your time probably doing match play and like real point play, as opposed to just like hitting cross court, forehands and drilling. So it depends on where you are in your calendar. What gear should we have in our bag? Hysteria, ugly, terrible rating. Man, I feel like Saria, whenever you come to Milwaukee here, we're gonna like sit down on the couch together and have like a little therapy session together. Yeah, stuff like for me that's like non-negotiable. I don't have a racket bag right now. Bands. Make sure you have Band-Aids. I've had like some cracked skin on my thumb recently. Make sure you have Band-Aids and athletic tape in your racket bag. You just always should have that in case you get a blister or something's bothering you. Make sure you have the ability to cover it up. Huge water bottle, ibuprofen, a notebook to write notes down in would be fantastic. Extra socks, extra shirt, extra shoes, if at all possible. Like you don't know what the heck's going to go on out there. If randomly like you break both, shoestrings, retying your shoes, like you should have extra shoes, socks, and shirt for sure. Don't actually waste energy. See, Sarah, you're not helping yourself. Yeah, man, you're welcome. You're welcome here anytime. Best tennis wall drills. You're not just hitting the wall. Yeah, we have tons of wall videos. If you do a YouTube search for essential tennis wall, I mean, I think we have at least 4 or 5. This is an old one, 9 years ago. Hitting wall, Federer wall challenge, improve accuracy at home, wall drills. That's not my video. So yeah, those first 4. Intuitive tennis is great though. All right, so we have 4. Those top 4. You can check those out. Tons. I mean, there's probably 20 different drill ideas if you just type in essential tennis wall. Those top 4. Have you ever played a 6-0 player? Yeah. Para, my last real job out in Washington, D.C., one of the other staff professionals had made a push on the ATP tour, and he made it as far as about 300 in the world in doubles and 600 in the world in singles. And he and I hit, I don't want to say frequently, but on many occasions, like if we both had a lesson cancel or we had some open time in the afternoon, we would go out and hit together. So like I'm very familiar with the type of ball, the type of pace, the type of kind of physicality at several levels above where I am. Not to mention in college, I was the bottom player on my team. I played number 6 singles. There were 5 players who were stronger than me on the team, and we trained together 2 hours a day, 5 days per week, and I did that for 3 years. For 3 years, I was the bottom player on my Division II college team. So I saw, like, I got pretty comfortable with, for sure, 5-5, and I would say 6-0, that player that I coached with at my last job. So yeah, I've seen a lot of balls come with a lot of different spins, a lot of different speeds. It's hard to throw something at me I haven't seen before. It doesn't mean that I'm going to respond to it well, but I'm kind of used to being, from college on, I kind of got used to being the weak player. So I'm not like some like big shot, like number 1 singles. That was me in high school. I was like kind of a big fish in a very small pond. But after high school, I was a small fish in a big pond. So I have a lot of perspective about players. I know exactly where I stand in the grand scheme of things. Like any of you watching that have like told me things that like I'm bad at or I need to work on or fix XYZ. I know. Like I'm very, very aware of like where I stand in the grand scheme of things. Castle, when I started playing tennis, I started playing tennis when I was 9 or 10, like somewhere in there. Maybe someday I'll do a video about kind of my background in tennis. I grew up in a very middle class, maybe even lower middle class when I was really young. My family really couldn't afford the normal like tennis lesson thing at a club. So I had a paper route. I paid for a lot of my own instruction when I was a kid. My grandparents helped me out a bunch, but I wasn't able to do the whole like traveling tournaments and academy and private, lessons multiple times a week and all that sort of thing. So I was, very much kind of self-driven, self-motivated from the beginning. Let's see, any other questions here? Difference between pros and masters. I think they call it the Masters Series. Is that what you're talking about? That's basically retired tennis pros, is the Masters Series, if that's what you're talking about, Thomas. Better hitting a winner or forcing your opponent to make a forced error mentally, what does it do? Yeah, there's a lot of different ways I could take that, Vernon. I think making them mess up is much easier to do especially if speed or quickness or like anticipation is even a slightly like part of their repertoire. Hitting a clean winner in tennis is not all that easy. And if you're constantly trying to do that, you're going to naturally make a lot more mistakes, which is how most tennis points end. It's with an error. So it's much, much smarter on your end to try to force them into making a mistake than it is to try to just hit an outright winner. So in general, that should kind of be your mentality, is to try to pressure, get them to mess up. If a winner happens to open up, fantastic. But that really shouldn't be like your goal for points from the beginning. It really shouldn't be. You know, it might make them feel worse about themselves if you hit a winner, but that's not going to counterbalance the extra errors that you make, more than likely. You're probably going to come out behind on it. Hopefully that makes sense. So I don't know if Mark is still here or not. I can't even remember what kind of strings I use. I'm not a big equipment person. It's a Solinco, what was it? What was the word? Solinco, I'm blanking on it. It's Solinco something, 17 gauge. Is it Confidential? Is that it? And I think Mark's been stringing it around 50 pounds. I don't know if Mark is still here or not. But Mark is actually going to be doing a live stream tonight, stringing one of my this yellow one. He's going to be stringing my yellow one, so I'm sure he'll talk about all that stuff tonight on his channel. Any news on ET versus Tennis Troll tournament? I haven't. That's not in the works right now. It definitely will happen, but we're waiting for things to get more back to normal than they are right now. Travel is just still not easy or feasible for a lot of people. So maybe this summer, but I'm 100% open to it. I think it would be extremely fun. MEP is coming up on his own though, and he'll be here relatively soon. So that content's going to be coming in the near future. I'm not going to put a timeline on it because we have just a huge amount of content just stacked up right now. So I don't want to get your hopes up for it and then have it take a long time for the videos to come. But it's in the near future, and it's all set. Like, he's actually coming here and playing 4 matches against 4 different Essential Tennis universe characters. I'm one of them. And then he's going to be playing 3 other players that you've already seen on the Essential Tennis channel. So he's playing 4 matches total, and it's going to be happening, I'll just say, in the near future. It's going to take time for those videos to get produced and to come out. So I don't want to get anybody's like hopes way up for it, because it's going to take some time for the videos to get out. If you weren't doing tennis as your career, what would you have wanted to do? You know, I love golf. I'd probably be a golf pro. As a kid, I also enjoyed music a lot. So probably something, I would either be a golf pro or I would be in music somehow, probably. I'll just answer a couple more questions here. What is the one thing you enjoy most when coaching? I mean, yeah, just seeing the light bulb moment for sure. With every student, you don't know when it's going to happen. And to be honest, it doesn't always happen for every student and every stroke. But most of the time, with most students, with most strokes, there's some moment where just before that moment, the student was a little bit unclear and like not sure about it. Maybe didn't really believe yet if this was the right thing to do, or we're spending our time on the right thing. And then right after that moment, whatever it is, it might be seeing an image of themselves, it might be seeing the ball travel off the racket, it might be the feeling of how they move their body. In that instant, all of a sudden there's that epiphany moment. That's it's basically magic. Like it's literally magic, where somebody makes the transition from being skeptical to being a believer, from not being successful to being successful. Like watching somebody in real time make that step from not successful to like, oh, I get it, like this is like I can do this, is that's definitely a really special thing for sure. Favorite tool to help me coach? Where's my iPad? My iPad's over there. My iPad. I can't coach without video, so it has to be the iPad for sure. No, I don't do racket reviews. I'm just not a gear person. I don't care. Give me a stiff 95 square inch racket and stiff poly strings. That's my racket review. That was my racket review. It's just not something I have time. I feel like I have time for it. It doesn't make a big difference or deal. It's not a big deal to me. Hey Marina. Awesome. Thank you. I'm really happy that you're enjoying the videos. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Carlos found the Shankcast podcast. Can't believe I've never heard of it before. Yeah, it's man, I loved it. So those of you who haven't seen it yet, yeah, the Shankcast podcast is coming back. It's used to be Kevin and Megan Garlington and me, and we're rebooting it. We're restarting it from any podcast app. Just type in Shankcast. That's ShankCast, and it's Mark Sanset, Matt Lemery, who's on the team here at Essential Tennis, and myself talking about tennis topics with a beer. It's like tennis coaches being super honest and transparent. So check it out. Hey Eric, thank you. I appreciate it. This area. Chris, we'll see. To be totally honest, like Mark, I don't know that he's ever going to be a full-time, team member here at Essential Tennis, but he's pushing to make YouTube his full-time, thing, which I respect a ton. And at some point, he's going to want to kind of make the transition away from like his normal job. And at that point, maybe there will be something will make sense as far as having him help Essential Tennis in some capacity, so that it can help him financially to kind of jump off from his normal 9-to-5 job. But ultimately, I think he wants to be independent. He wants to do his own thing. So I don't think it would be a good fit for either of us, honestly, for him to be full-time at Essential Tennis. But I could totally see him being more officially involved in the future. That might work out. We'll see what happens. Yeah, footwork training session is possible, Michael. Hysteria. Scott be on the podcast? Yeah, I can see Scott being on the Shankcast. My podcast is called the Essential Tennis Podcast. I've been doing that for 13 years. Right? Yeah, 13. Wow. Yeah, 13 years. The Essential Tennis Podcast. The Shankcast has only been around for about a year or so. All right, one more question here. Hey, Michael. Glad I could make your day, Michael Kelly. Yeah, okay, doubles matches. We will do more doubles, to be totally honest with you guys. And listen, there's 170 of you here watching. I assume all of you probably have kind of followed our videos. Otherwise, you wouldn't be wasting your time watching me talk right now. So tell me, like, honestly, the doubles series that we did about a month or two ago just kind of tanked, honestly. Like, it hardly got any views. Please do me a favor, be honest in the chat right now. if you skipped those videos, was it because it was doubles or because it was 4-0 level, or was it a combination of both? Because we've seen you all asking for doubles, and then we were like, oh, great, like we got a doubles match. And then we published those doubles match videos as well as a couple of doubles like lessons, and the whole thing like just tanked. Like nobody watched it. So I love doubles. Like I want to do more doubles videos, but to be totally honest with you guys, like it kind of tanked the channel for a while. So I'm a little hesitant to jump back into it. We will do more doubles, but it just might be, it might not be super frequent. All right, so Lucas says because it was 4-0. I'm not really seeing a consensus. Doubles hard to follow. Watching old guys doubles can be boring. All right, appreciate the honesty. Points are too short. Would love more doubles. Yeah, Stacy, honestly, I was a little surprised because doubles is kind of like the club, game. Like if you're a member at a tennis club, then it's more doubles than singles. I don't know. Doubles for older players who don't watch YouTube. I've got viewers of all ages here on YouTube. I think our sweet spot is like around 35 or 40. All right, so pretty mixed messages here. Some people saying more doubles. Other people saying like you're just not into it. So it's kind of a mixed bag. All right, I gotta go. I've got a phone call coming up here that I need to get ready for. Hey, listen, thank you. If you're watching right now, I really appreciate your support very much. Thank you for watching the lesson today, and hope you enjoyed the commentary. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for your engagement in the chat and the comments. Really appreciate it very much. I can't say this too frequently or too often. Like you all keep us going. Like you enable what we do here at Essential Tennis just by clicking on the videos, just by clicking the like button, leaving positive comments. Like that keeps the whole thing, like without your engagement, we wouldn't have a reason to keep pushing forwards. I mean, for real, like seriously, if nobody watched the videos, why would we keep making them? Like we would stop. So we wouldn't spend all the time, all the resources on making these videos if you all didn't engage. So you all keep us going. So thank you so much. We all appreciate it a ton. Hopefully you enjoyed today's stream. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.